Okay, so let's start where we left off yesterday, and up here on my top toolbar I've got recent, open recent designs. I'm going to click that and pick up Sue 1 because that's what we saved her as yesterday when we finished, and it will take a minute for that to bring it in. As I've said to you, quite a complex design, and I'm also hampered by the fact that I've got my recording software going to record my screen, so yeah, it takes a few minutes, but she'll come back in. And this is our master file, okay? So let's give it a little moment to get warmed up. Come on, Sunbonnet Sue, where are you? I could sing a song. I could tell you a joke. I can't think of a joke. I could quote you some Wordsworth. I did that once upon a time for Nice Edward. Oh, yes, she is. Right. Oh, yes, she is. Right. So she's come in now, yeah? So this is where we left off yesterday. We've done really everything we want to do, but I wanted to show you a few different things. I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that this will work for me now. First off, I don't know where to start, but let's first off, we've still got, you see the white outline, so that we have now been using this design behind us, yeah? Well, we can get rid of this design. We not necessarily want to delete it because there may be circumstances where you want to bring it back just to double check. You might have missed something. It may be more complicated than the design that we're using right now. But on your keyboard, the letter D, yeah? I don't know whether D stands for design or digital artwork or what it stands for, or dummy, I don't know what it stands for. But the letter D, if you press the letter D now, even though it's locked, if you press the letter D on your keyboard, boom, you get rid of the site. It's still there because it's still in your resequencing, but you get rid of the site of your artwork, yeah? So now everything that you see on screen is all your own work, yeah? So pressing D just takes that out of sight, right? So now, I'm hoping this will work, but what you've seen me do previous to this is show you it coloured in when I put up screenshots of things I've done with Peter Rabbit and things like that. So let's just take, over here on the resequence bar, let's just take the applique leg, yeah, which has now become highlighted. It's just a leg. And over here on object properties, where there's not, it's basically that cross is saying it's see-through, we can click applique fabric, and there's lots of things you can do now. Factory, if I said factory, it would give me a drop down of like different types of fabric. I'm not interested in that. If I went to custom, it would ask you to browse. So if you had scanned in the actual material you were going to use, whether it be patterned material or what have you, you could go and browse that scan and it would colour it like that. But I don't normally do that. It's a good enough idea for me to go to colour, so just give me a plain colour of what I'm expecting it to be. And I can pick, that rose. That's, to be honest with you, that's a lot brighter than I expect I want it. But let's just use that for a moment, okay? I just want to run up here and make sure I've got it turned on. No, it's not turned on. There you are. Now I've turned it on. Show, this button up here, show, will show you lots of things. If you can't see it straight away, it's because it's not on show. So I've just made a leg really bright pink. Well, actually, it's not good enough for me. So I'm going to go back to applique fabric, colour. Oh, hang on, I need to select it. Hang on, get out of that. Select it so it knows what I'm talking about. Applique colour, select it, and more colours. I can go into my colour wheel and say, well, actually, yeah, it's more that one. It's more of a flesh tone, isn't it, that I want? So I can go, okay, yeah. So now I've got her in a flesh tone, yeah? And then I can then click on this applique fabric, colour, and because I just used that, it'll be here in my recent colours, so that's okay. Make her emit that colour, yeah? And again, with it, because this gives you more of a feel for it as you go. So the next applique is, I'm picking up the navy blue, well, the blue, whatever colour you want it to be, applique fabric, colour, oh, what should we call it? Let's have a little look. I don't want it too bright. I'd rather it a bit like sky blue. Okay, let's do that. So you see what I'm doing? Now, the hat. Let's look at the hat. So I'll come down and I'll pick up the applique for the hat, applique colour. Well, I want that to be quite a nice bright yellow. Yeah? Okay, boom. And her arm. The last one was her arm, so pick up the arm, applique colour, well, I did pick quite a dark green, didn't I? I don't know, so let's have a look. Oh yeah, there's the green, right? Okay, boom. So now, it's just art for art's sake, but you can see your little lady on your screen. These are the colours I picked, which means that you pick whatever colour you want. But if I was picking these colours, I'd be like, is that what I want? If I decide, for example, no, actually that green's awful, I don't like the green, I absolutely hate the green, I would prefer that arm to be pink as well, what do I do? Right, so I would go over here, click on the applique for the arm, come down and change the colour to the flesh tone. Now let's change the stitching, yeah? Then go up to the applique colour and find the colour and say, well, I wanted that flesh tone, and go, okay, and there she is. But one thing we haven't changed is the top stitching. So go to top stitching and then pick the flesh colour for that as well. So now I've changed that. Ooh, looks to me, I'm just saying at the moment, looks to me that's navy blue, which I wanted flesh tone as well. You always got to double check what you're doing. So you see, even though whatever colour you decide in the beginning, you could change and say, well, no, I prefer that, or no, I want it to. And this is just giving you an overall view of what it looked like when you've laid the material down and what you're expecting to have at the other end, basically. But it's like everything else, it doesn't really matter, because when you move this to your USB stick and put it in your computer, put it in your sewing machine, it's only for example colours. So when you're at your computer, you could say, well, yeah, it might say yellow, but I don't want a yellow, I want a green now. So you just use green material and green thread instead of using yellow thread. I mean, you just pick what you want, well, whilst you're sat down ready to embroider. But you could change things to give you an overall view and say, well, do I like that? Oh, maybe, let's have a look. Because this is where you can play with it. And you could say to yourself, well, you know, not that happy actually. I would rather her hat. So I could go pick up her hat on the applique now. And I say, applique fabric, let's change that colour. I want it lighter. I want it more of a lemon. Okay, that's more of a lemon. I might keep the same colour yellow stitching, but the actual fabric is a lighter yellow. So you can mess with it. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that before we moved on to our next stage. These are just things that are available to you within the programme. Now, you know I said to you, this is the absolute basic, but you may want to add a little something to it. So, one of the things that you may want to add is, which you have the ability to do, is to come over to your toolbox and come down and open up Advanced Digitize and a motif stamp. Now, these are the same sort of motifs that we could use as a running line, but instead of this being a running line, this would just be a one-off stamp, if you like, of embroidery. Yeah? So, if I wanted to do something a bit more artistic on a hat, I quite like that one. I could pick that. Okay. It's attached to my mouse, because I've not set it at all. And I gotta think, well, where do I want it? Yeah, I think probably roughly there. Click once, that sets it, but this, click once sets it, but I can, as you can see now, using my mouse, I can move it around, but that suits me. Now, I'll hit escape now, because I only want the one. But you see how I've used a motif stamp to just put a little bit of artwork on a hat. Now, it happens to be the same bright pink, which is good, as we did the string of the motif string. But again, you can come down here and pick it up and say, well, I want it to be bright red. Boom. Now it's bright red. Well, you might not want it. I mean, it was better off pink, wasn't it? But again, once you've laid it down, you can always pick it up and change the colour. So now I put it back to how it was. So that's a very easy way of putting a little tiny what's-it on, right? But also, if we highlight it again, here's the other thing. I always hold down shift so it will move in proportion. So holding down shift on my keyboard, take a corner, I can make it bigger. Right? It doesn't have to stay the same size as it was. I can make it bigger. So now I put something on a hat to give it a bit more interest. These are just ideas. I'm just showing you a bit of how to, if that's what you wanted to do. Yeah? So that's that. Now, I've got to think now before we do the next stage of what I want to tell you. I just want to move on now, and again, using the motif stamp, show you something, yeah? Let's say on a skirt, wanted to use something, have a quick look at what I like and what I don't like. Gallery, give me more, what do I, well, that's quite nice, those tulips, they're nice, aren't they? Okay, right? So, again, now, this is tulip, and I'll have that. I want it to follow a skirt, and it'll stay with me for as many as I want. Yeah, so I'm now laying down, and I'm twisting it a little bit. Obviously, I'm doing this by eye. what more can you do? And I've got to go up a bit now because we're going around a curve. Can I get one more in? Yeah. So now I've laid down those curves and hit enter, and oops, I got one over here which I don't want. I need to go, well, when this happens you need to go back to select. Oh, it won't let me get back up there. Oh, just hit escape, hit naught to come back to where you were, and because I've escaped, I'm now going to hit select. It will select the last thing I did and delete it because I don't want that. I can respace it because I'm in select now. I can say, well, oi, missus, move over. Not that much. Move back. Move over. Move over. Move over a bit. Move over a bit. Move over a bit. Not too much. Trying to up a bit. Down a bit. Up a bit. Ooh. I just use my keyboard for that. And go back to, yeah. Well, they're not quite right, are they? Let's move that one to the right a little bit. I use my keyboard for that. It's like millimeters, yeah? Oh, it's still going. Look at it, little sod. No, okay. So I'll use my mouse. I want it there. No, I want it there, right? So I look at, yeah, that's more or less okay. And I'm just click select again so I know I'm on select. Now, that's the last colour I use, so that's pink, right? But it's on a dress, so I'll come down. Oh, and it's a huge, it looks like a huge mess, doesn't it? So from there, see, they're all grouped together. They're all grouped together because they're a stamp. So I'm going to say, right, I am, well, I was using control, that's wrong. I should start at the top and use shift. So I've just highlighted all of those elements that are the tulips and said, I don't want you pink, I actually want you blue. See, now I've changed them to blue. But in our resequencing event over here, we don't want to have to swap from pink to blue, right? What we actually want to do, so I need to highlight them all again. Holding shift, I'll just collect them all up again. Right, so we got the whole lot collected up again and say, no, actually, move you up the scale. I want you underneath the last thing we did on the blue, which was the outside line, yeah? So I've resequenced it. So when it's finished appliquing down and it's finished doing the outside stitch, it will now do this row of tulips, yeah? Before it goes on to do the hat, then the pink, and then the flower is the same as the pink. So you have to always bear in mind that you are resequencing in colour. Otherwise, you're going to be forever changing your thread where there's no need to. Sometimes you have to leave one colour and come back to it because of the laying down of fabric. But most of the time, we try and work so we're using all the same colour at the same time, the least changes of colour as we're doing our little girl or our little applique, the better. It just, you know, it finishes one and goes on and does the other, yeah? The other thing I would say to you, because there are, well, you know, I could move that one actually. He needs to come teeny bit that way. No, see? No, see? Oh, I use keyboard. I just want to move him a fraction. Now he's more in line, yeah? But anyway, so what's I saying? Yeah, so we want to sort of do all the same colour at the same time for us not to be able to keep changing the thread in our needle, because it just makes life a lot easier, right? Okay, so that's that. So these are just little added extras. You might think, oh, hang on, I'll press not, get it back up in the middle. But you might think, oh, I can't, oh, I don't want to. No, you don't have to do all of this. I'm just showing you little bits and bobs that are possible that can change it from being something quite plain to something quite, ooh, look at that, yeah? So that's that. Now, what we need to look at now, we've done, I'm not going to do any, I don't want to do any more embroidery. Yes, I could draw lines and do satin stitch and put shoes on her. I could draw lines and do lots of things with it. I could do a grassy background. I could do a background where she's, stood in front of a house. There's loads of things you could do, but this is like basics. But I'm just showing you a few things, like bringing in a motif, then resizing it to suit you, bringing in another motif stamp, but then duplicating it and making it run on a line, then moving it up so it's within your colour range, because there's nothing stopping that from being sewn as soon as the dress is down. So that's the way we want to go. But the next thing that we want to do now, the most important thing I feel is, because it's done, so number one, let's go saving it. That's Sunbonnet 1. The second thing that we want to do is you would want to export this to your machine's machine file. But when you know how to do that, you will have, same as me, something that says write to card USB. So you stick your USB in the slot of your computer and it will write it to your USB stick. And even though you're using Elna, it will write it as a JPX file. Okay? That's for you to actually sew out. Now, for us to use it in another program, like I have Cameo and you have Scan and Cut, it's not going to change. The sizes aren't going to change. Nothing is going to change. So we may need to export it in another way. So for you personally, you may want to export this as a PES file. Now how you do that is you would come over to this one over here, yeah? And let me just close that up so I know where I am. Output design, the bottom one. Export design. Export design. Mine comes up to where I last used it, so let's go Crafty So-and-so's 2001 Sunbonnet Sue. Where is she? Come back down here. Sunbonnet Sue. It wants to do it as a JEF file by default for me, yeah? But if you're using Scan and Cut, you would want to export it as a PES file. So you would change the way it exports it and put save. Now that has been exported to that file location as a PES file, okay? But I know that you can import a PES file to your Scan and Cut, yeah? I can import a JEF file to my studio. But let's leave that to one side at the moment, yeah? And let's just look at this as it is, as a design on our screen, and what is the output we can get from this on our hatch too. So coming over here now, again in the output design, come down and look at print preview. Now this print preview will give you loads and loads of things. It will give you, this is the overall picture, yeah? So you could print that off, so that when you hoop up, you know that the center cross is exactly where your needles should start in a home position on your embroidery machine. So that's number one, yeah? So that as long as your needle absolutely hits that mark before it starts doing anything, then that is centralising this on your fabric. And obviously, I don't know what size square you're going to use with this. I know obviously it's practically A4, but you may be doing it on a 12 by 12 scale, so a 12 by 12 inch block. I don't know how big your block is, but you obviously want this to be centralised on your block. So you need to centralise this in your material. Then you need to put your material, I take this down on my material where I want it centralised, then put the whole thing under the needle and make sure my needle hits that crosshair. That's where it's gonna start as the centre. It ain't going to stitch from there, because we know the first thing it's going to do is travel from there down to here to start this, yeah? But it needs to start right there. So that's, that's your central thing. Now, there's lots of, yours is exactly the same as mine, so there's lots of options. When you come into print options, you can see I got things that I've crossed that I want or I don't want, yeah? One of the things that I have got ticked is applique patterns. I'm just going to cancel that for a moment. So, as you can see, it's going to print me out 1, 2, 3. It tells you over here, right? 1, 2, 3. If I go to next page, 4, 5. Well, that's it. There's only 5 bits. So you could print this out now, and this is absolutely 100%. So you could print out this from your on your printer, and then you could then scan this in to your scan and cut. They are separated out values, so once you've scanned it in, you should be able to pick them up as individual items and move them around your mat. And so, yes, you know that you want that one, and maybe that one is pink, so you'll be able to move them all together to cover up the piece of material you cut out of it. That one, if it's blue, well, then you want to move that down, lower down on your mat where you got your blue, and this one you want to move down on your mat, or do a secondary cut or whatever, because you know that's going to be yellow. But these things are possible now to print out and use to scan into your scan and cut. That saves quite a few problems. And I don't know whether you realised that you could output this from your Hatch too. Helps you a great deal. So that was one method. This is method 2, and is the way that I do it, right? So what I will do, because of my programs that I have, I will go and, you can do it here, but no, let's do it the way you do it. Come down here and export design as a Jeff. So I'll go and pick up Jeff, right? Zoo 1 Jeff in Sunbonnet Zoo and save that. So I've now exported it as a Jeff file. Okay. Haven't written it to my stick yet, because this, at the end of the day, I can bring up my EMB and export that as a JPX file to my stick. I'm not getting to that bit yet, because before I start stitching, I want to cut the pieces of fabric out. So I am going to now close this, which brings me back to what I am recording you on. That's not a problem. I'll just diminish that for a moment and bring up my studio file. Hopefully that'll open quite nicely. Come on, studio. See, all the things I use most often are over here. Where's my EQ8? Where's he? Oh, he should be over there. Come down here, you little sod. Right, anyway. So I'm opening up my studio, my Silhouette Studio software, which I use on my cutting machine, which is a Cameo, yeah? I got a portrait as well, but I now more or less use my Cameo for most things. So I'm just opening up my program, yeah? It's usually the other way up. I'm not sure it's the right way up today. And I'm not using the Cameo mats because I'm still using my portrait mats because it's big enough for me. That's all I want. So I'll now file, open. Hoping this is going to work. So I've got so much now in my Sunbonnet 2 because this is on my video files, because obviously I'm making videos as I'm going, right? But what I'm looking for is a Jeff file. Pez, there she is, Jeff. Yours would be Pez for your scan and cut. Mine is Jeff because that's what I want to use, right? So I'll open up my Jeff file. And she'll always come up on the mat, yeah? But, and as you notice, all the colours are flipping well changed. It cannot report the right colours. Now, because we've just been working on it, we know that everything that is embroidery, we don't want, because we don't want the embroidery. We just want those damn, so you see, that's all the same colour. So I go over there, right? I'm looking at the leg. Yeah, I can take, that is not very clear, but I can take the stitching away, and that, all the stitching on that, take that away. Yeah, you see, I'm just taking away the embroidery. Go away, right? And, well, now what I will do is I'm going to draw a box. Won't let me. What's wrong with you? Won't let me. And I'll just, like, delete. It's running slow because of all my programs that are running. And just delete. All the embroidery, I don't want. I just want, remember I said to you, with the plique, this line that showed you where the placement line is what we can use as a cut line, yeah? So now, I go, well, I'm not going to do that first. I'll just put this over here for a moment. I'm not going to do the dress. These are the articles that I want. So on my mat, I want a mitt. These are all going to be the same colour now. So I want a mitt. I want that. And I want that. Yeah? Now, again, you can click on it and you can twist it to fit. It depends on what size of fabric you're using. Yeah, you can move them around. And I know you can do this in scan and cut as well, right? So, and then I could just get that straight again. In some ways, I could say, well, hang on a moment, shift up there, my love. And if I move that one, this is all the same colour. If I move that one, look, if I cut a piece 2 inches by 8 inches, I am going to get all my shapes on. That's all I need to do is lay down 2 inches by 8 inches to cut out. Well, looking at that, I'll just move this slightly so it's not touching. I can cut out all my shapes in that. Obviously, as I've showed you in previous videos, and I will show you again if you're unsure, I would cut a piece 2 by 8, right? Then I would stick that onto my heat and bond light, iron that on, cut it out around it, and so then peel off the paper so the heat and bond light is actually attached to the fabric, lay the fabric down on my cutting mat, to agree with what I said. Oh, I'm going to go cut this, yeah, and then off we go and cut it. In my, I probably would just do, because these are like the flesh colour pinks first. I then would go to send. You've got a nice red line around it. That's my cut line. Mine's already set up. Fabric thin cotton, yeah. Cut. Say cut on my action. Cut. And what I tend to do is I do change mine to 2 passes, okay? It's saying it's unavailable because I don't think I've got the actual thing turned on. Mine is on Bluetooth, so unless I've got the actual machine turned on, it won't report. But that's what I would do. Come back to design once I cut, so just imagine that I cut all the pink. I then draw a box around it, and I probably would say, well, let's group that. So everything I cut, I'll put over here because I've done it. What's the next thing I want to do? Well, let's do a blue dress. Again, you know, put it on my mat. Depending on the size of the piece of fabric I got, do I want to turn it this way? You know, how is it going to best fit on my fabric? Because you've got so many different options. But you see my point, yeah? You can, that's not very good, is it? But let's, because I do it very quickly. Let's go back to how it was, because it's a very awkward shape, isn't it? So let's just say, oh, well, have it like more or less normal. So as long as I'm within my parameters, I need to cut a piece that is at least, well, it's practically 8 inches by, what's this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches long. And this is yellow, but if I say, well, starting at 7 on my mat, if I put a piece of material on that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long, a piece of yellow on that size, then I can send it to cut, and it will cut both pieces at the same time. And that's what I do, yeah? That's how I cut on my machine. Now, let me just reiterate. We brought in the Jeff, in my case. In your case, for Scan and Cut, you'd have brought in the PES file. The first thing you want to do is get rid of all the top stitching. Because we have digitized it as an applique, it will have this placement line, solid line. It will have that. So you get rid of all the top stitch, delete it. Because what you're looking for is that placement line so that you can then go and use that in your Scan and Cut as a cut line. It's a solid cut line. So I'll just come out of this, because I got to do this again anyway. I'll just come out of this now again. John wants to know, I don't want to say anything. Right, all I got now is my other programming. So if I go back and open up Digitizer, as I said to you, I just showed you, you can use the print preview and print out the solid lines that you can then scan into your Scan and Cut. But to be even more precise, export it as a PES file, then bring that into Scan and Cut. And I'm not entirely sure how you do it. I just think that with my silhouette it's so flippin' easy. Just lift off the embroidery, delete it because you don't want it. You're looking for the placement line, which is a solid line that you can then use as a cut line. And you also know that that cut line that you're going to do on your electronic cutter is precisely the line that you have drawn for your applique in the very first place. And so how best can it be? It's already prepared. It's got the heat and bond on the back. When you've hooped this up, and I will do another video on that, say, right, How do we know it's right in the middle? I'll go on and do that. But once you've sewn, and can I just explain to you that it will when you put this in your machine, it will report for each applique item. Yeah, it always uses pink. So you will find, although we're doing the flesh tone for the leg and the mitt, yeah, it will come up. The first stitch is a pink. The second stitch will be the flesh tone, and then then it will do the top stitching for that bit. Then it will come back and it'll stop because it says, oh, this is a bright pink. The bright pink is always going to be your placement line. And the reason for that is no matter what colour you, because you're going to do it in the same colour, you're not going to change colours, but the reason why that is because it's an odd colour in most respects. So you know that, okay, the pink is the placement line, so that then I can iron down my bit of applique and then carry on and it'll do the next bit. You just keep the same thread in your machine, but that's a colour stop for you to do something before it continues. So that's how that works. And by sort of general industry standard, an applique stop colour or placement line is bright pink. Okay. I'm trying to think now, is there anything else I want to say? No, I don't think there's any more I can say at the moment. As I say, the next stage I'll show you is the physicality, which won't be on screen because we've done everything we need to do on screen, is the physicality of actually sewing it out. Okay?